Hello everyone, welcome to OBN. This is our weekly program, Talk to OBN. Today I'm joined by Ledet from US. We're going to talk about her experience in the country, and of late she traveled to Russia and Ukraine border. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk also the university development, the new projects in the country, and other related issues. This is your OBN. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ambo.
All right. To begin with, let's start with who is Ledet then?
So Ledet is, I guess, pretty versatile. My background is in healthcare. I was initially a nurse, and after that I have expanded to public health, and I worked in public health sector for about a decade, and I'm also a mental health champion, and on top of that I have been working in communications related to media production and writing, so that's Ledet so far, and I'm hoping to refine and continue on that journey. That's part of my career.
I see. Of late, you traveled to Russia, Ukraine border, and what was the major purpose of your trip there, and what did you observe out there? And can you tell our audience?
Sure. I recently was in Russia for about 10 days, and I was invited to Russia by the state grain operator, which is part of the Russian government, and I was among many experts and journalists that were invited from across the world, and just happened to be I was one from Africa, so it was about a group of 15 or so of us, and we traveled around Russia. The goal of the invitation was to get for international experts or journalists or influencers to get an experience about Russia, because sometimes there's a lot of misinformation in our world, and the misinformation can be about any country. So I think this was a way for Russia to give an opportunity for people to come and visit Russia. That's the main reason that we went, is to actually have a first-hand experience of Russia and the Russian people.
Mm-hmm. Could Russia-Ukraine war, affect the peace and the stability of the world, or just the global economy and other? Can you tell us about that viewpoint?
Yes, so one of the things that I learned about this trip is that Russia is a very big country, and I mean, yes, I've known in the map that it's big, but then when you actually go there and see, is when you realize that it's a very large economy. It's one of the largest in the world, and it used to be even larger, and it really significantly influences our world. Currently, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is affecting the entire world. The prices, from food prices to logistics issues about getting products. I mean, there's times that products are delayed. I remember there was shortages of baby formula all over the world at one point. So children were suffering from baby formula that was happening from the COVID season and then going on into the conflicts. And then since I've been to Ethiopia, there was a time that we've had issues with cooking oil and so forth. So definitely Russia-Ukraine conflict is affecting, and it trickles down all the way to every country in Africa. Mm-hmm. so it's, we like it or not, Russian and Ukraine conflict is everyone's business. That's really what the bottom line is, that it's not for few countries or for a few individuals to take part and to sort out the issue there, but it's Africa has a big stake in ensuring that there's peace in Russia and Ukraine, because we will be affected as well.
Mm-hmm. Since you've raised about that, fuel rise and the food crisis occurred in some countries of Africa or in the Russia-Ukraine war, and how could African countries withstand that challenge?
That's a good question. I mean, as African countries, we're really making a lot of stride, starting from Ethiopia, especially the Oromia region. We have seen significant improvement in agriculture, and the striving for self-sufficiency. So I believe that example needs to be duplicated, and it needs to be ensured that self-sufficiency is the number one goal for Africans. I mean, we have the land, we have the ability to grow the crops, and we have all the natural resources that we need. So it's kind of heartbreaking that Africa, needs to import goods such as wheat and so forth. But nevertheless, I think Africa in general as a continent is learning, and I think that's also one of the reasons why I believe it's important to always have partners all over the world, including like Russia, because you get to learn and exchange technologies from different countries, and you need that, with the US, you need that with the Arab world, you need that with the Russians, we need that with the Chinese. So I think Africans can increase their self-reliance, whether it's, by learning the new technology on how to grow the seeds, or whether it's having the best pesticides. Communication and information is, key. So I think Ethiopia, along with Ethiopia, has made significant strides in agriculture already, and will continue. I'm pretty sure in this manner, and I think we might even see ourselves exporting in the near future. So. But for collectively as Africa, I think self-sufficiency should be the priority. And then right now with the cost, what can be done right now with the cost of food prices is that we have to shop around. There has to, if there is opportunities, I think Africa needs to put herself first. I think it was the South African foreign minister that mentioned before that Africa has to make the decisions and make the best decisions, with her interests in mind. So feeding your own people should come first. And I think the world is, a place for us to bargain. And so for the food costs, if the food costs is expensive in this part of the world, then it's important that we seek it in other parts of the world where the cost of food is not as high.
Mm-hmm. As you know, the Russia-Ukraine war is, first of its kind after, the Second World War. And it draws, the attention of, powerful countries. And now in Horn Africa, one of the most, volatile places in the world, and another war broke out among, the generals in Sudan. And what do you want to say on that, and in what way that we can solve that problems, and what lesson could be drawn from Ethiopia's peace talk for Sudan?
Yes, it's hard not to mention how fortunate Ethiopia has been when you see the conflicts that especially just started in Sudan, because it's really starting in the capital where their core is, and Sudan is disrupted tremendously. It's starting from the government, from the main city. So it's a very difficult, challenging time for the Sudanese people, our brothers and sisters. And we want to obviously, I think Ethiopia has extended, diplomatically extended their support to the Sudanese people, and encourage them to dialogue, to learn from the mistakes and the errors that the Ethiopians have made, and to sit down and to discuss and to save their country. I think this also goes to the Russian and Ukraine conflict. The Ethiopian government, I believe, have recently sent over a team to be part of the African dialogue team, I believe, or some sort of a negotiation team. It's early stages, not much news has been out about it, but I'm hoping that Ethiopia is going to play a significant role in really encouraging, especially we're coming from experience of just having 2 years of conflict. So I think we are in a position to say, these are our errors, these are the issues that we had, these are the issues that we couldn't have solved at that moment, and these are the amount of lives that costed us, the amount of financial drain that we have suffered, and now we are able to come together and form peace. I think it's a great example for countries that are actively going through this, because sometimes it's very difficult to look past the step that you're in. And right now they might be in a conflict mode, they might be really fighting for a certain cause, but at the end of the day, if there's no country, there is nothing to lead, there's nothing to be part of. So preserving their country, preserving their institutions comes above everything, especially for Sudan in this case. So I think we have a lot to offer from our experience, and also to support, to lend hand, and give good consultation.
Mm-hmm. It is a conflict led by two generals of the same nation. And we are, witnessing some, external, powers groups who are, try to meddle in the Sudan's internal, problem, and it, exacerbate the problem. And that, like, whenever there is intervention, you will never find a good solution for the problems that occur in Sudan. And what must they do to, put forward for those who are trying to, meddle in Sudan's internal affair?
Yeah, so I think meddling in internal affairs is probably one of the, it seems like the most used word in the political world in the last few years, it seems like, because I think our world is full of information. We're communicating. The fact that we have social media and mainstream, there's a lot of information, so the world is very aware, and what we're learning is there is a lot of internal meddling and interfering and instigating and taking sides and working for your interest and not really for the people of the country. And so it's really important for people of the world, not just Ethiopia or Sudan, to realize that, when there is two countries or two brothers and sisters or whatever, there's a conflict, that we need to figure out what the common denominator is. And once you know the common denominator, whether it's, geopolitical interest, or it's whether a power issue, influence issue, and so forth. Once you categorize those issues, then it will be easier to understand and to also advocate for people, for the local people, for the regular people. Just like when conflicts that are happening in Russia now, it's like Russia and Ukraine, but really, is it Russia and Ukraine, or is it other things? Other countries are involved, as there are other interests, other geopolitical issues, other so many other things are behind it. Is it really Russia and Ukraine's? Because what I saw when I went to Russia is you see Russian and Ukrainians living side by side. They've always lived together and so forth. So the same thing, we're in Sudan. There's, two factions are fighting, and, what's behind it. So I believe that it's, internal meddling needs a lot of mediation, and it needs to be put on the table, because people need to understand that. Once people understand that, I think the people in the world have a lot in common, and are able to advocate for the ordinary people.
Mm-hmm. I see. Let me take you to the Russia-Ukraine war, and even if some African countries faced food crisis due to the Russia-Ukraine war in Ethiopia, still managed to survive due to the wheat production issue that it is still undertaken. And what do you want to say on that, especially on the wheat production, in the food and self-sufficiency, and like in food security, the plan that the government is taking?
Are you saying that? Maybe repeat your question.
Yeah, the thing is, most African countries, you can say, especially African countries, sub-Saharan African countries, they faced food crisis due to Russia-Ukraine war, but Ethiopia still managed to survive this crisis due to the wheat production initiative that the government is undertaking. And how do you see that initiative?
I think there is significant improvement in agriculture in Ethiopia. It's been talked about. We're not even taking into account the population increase that we're having in Ethiopia. So you can only imagine the amount of production increase that Ethiopia has been experiencing over the last few years, because the population has increased significantly, and our agriculture capabilities compared to what it was, a while back, and even just a few years ago, it's uncomparable. There is a lot of there's a big campaign. Oromia region is leading, in that area, in a sense of campaigning, providing tractors and providing equipment to farmers, facilitating, providing seedlings and pesticides and so forth. These are all handled through the region, and the results have been, impeccable. It's seen, and they are actually moving this towards other regions, and other regions are also growing in their capability of production. So Ethiopia has definitely have been able to sustain this issues of the world, including COVID and conflict in Ukraine and Russia, and even our conflict here at home, because there has been a substantial hard work along while the problems were occurring. So significant improvement. So I can imagine what with peace and the next few years will bring for agriculture in Ethiopia in general. Because if you can bring this much production and improvement in agriculture during conflict, during COVID, worldwide emergency, and also the disruption of wheat from Russia and Ukraine, and sunflower and so forth. There is going to be significant improvement and significant room for us to not just support ourselves, but have the possibility to support others. So in general, I think Ethiopia has done an exceptional job. This is not to say that there was no difficulties. We've had, natural disasters such as the drought in Borona, and IDPs and so forth. So considering all the issues that has happened, both natural and man-made disasters, I think we are in a very positive projection.
That's great. Talking of the change in the country, and what is your take on the new project you see in the capital, Finfine? I mean, about the Shagar beautifying project is in the capital, and other mega projects in the country since Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed took office.
Thanks, Ambo. That really brings a smile to my face because just recently when I traveled to Russia, I was in awe with their, the beautiful gardens, their green legacy in the city of Moscow and so forth, in their stadiums and churches and so forth. And I was, taking that beautiful air, fresh air and so forth. And at the same time, I was extremely happy to know that Ethiopia is also turning to be that way. Ethiopia is have beautiful gardens, beautiful parking, beautiful places where you can take your kids to play, beautiful museum, science museum at that, grand library. I mean, so many things, so many mega projects, so many things to beautify this wonderful city of Africa. And the world now, we are really transforming this city. This city is transformed. It's becoming the real capital that it deserves to be. And also the other part of, what's very gratifying about the mega projects that Dr. Abiy has been working on is that it's very inclusive. This is not just done for, the top 1% or 10% or something. This is for the entire country. This is for anyone. This is for the kids who dream, who can transform their life by looking at wonderful books. They can read. They have a facility. They have a good environment to go and learn. They have a museum that they can go aspire. And all these is not just to beautify, but it's really beautifying the mind for our generation. So this has been the last few years of grand projects have been very, very interesting, and I'm really happy to see that.
I see. Finally, the Ethiopian government is working a lot to integrate the Horn region, and the government is supplying electricity to Djibouti, Kenya, and Sudan, and other projects are still underway to realize the regional integration in the Horn region. And as Ethiopia had lion's share in inaugurating the Organization of African Unity, the Grand African Union. And what is your take on the Ethiopia's role in unifying Africa, and how do you see the regional integration project is undertaken by the Ethiopian government?
Great. I was really happy to see that that Ethiopia is already started exporting and selling electricity and energy to countries like Djibouti. This is showing that although we're not there, it's a great foreign currency generator. Although we're not there in a sense of having the entire population provided with electricity, it looks like we're going to get there because we're already exporting, and the reason why we're probably exporting at this point before we have every house lit up is probably because we need foreign currency, but we are expanding and we're growing, and the more the GERD is completed, we're going to have not only electricity here, but we're going to be providing electricity to the Horn of Africa, and the Horn of Africa actually is in need of electricity and energy for a lower price. We are able to provide it at a price that is reasonable to our brothers and sisters. So that in itself is going to, continue to strengthen the relationship that we have in the Horn. We're able to not just provide or sell, but we're able to do business in a way that will help us coexist and support our peoples collectively. So Ethiopia is going to play, she has already, and I think she's going to continue to play a significant role in the Horn and in the world.
Ledet, much thanks indeed for your time, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for vivid explanations.
Thank you so much, Ambo. It was really nice being here.
All right. Dear viewers, this is all we have for today. I hope you have got great points from our discussion. This is all we have for today. Thank you for being with us.